There's something strange about the way people watch South Park. On the surface, it looks chaotic, offensive, even ridiculous. Crude animation, absurd storylines, characters doing things that feel exaggerated to the point of stupidity. Most people laugh, maybe get shocked for a moment, and then move on. They treat it like background noise, just a cartoon. But that assumption that it's just comedy is exactly why it works so well. Because while you're laughing, you're not paying attention to what it's actually doing. And the unsettling part is this: the longer time passes, the less it feels like exaggeration, and the more it starts to feel like reality. The show was never just about jokes. From the very beginning, it was built on satire. Sharp, uncomfortable, and precise. The kind that doesn't just entertain you, but quietly dissects the way people think, react, and behave. Its creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, understood something most people don't. If you tell people the truth directly, they resist it. They argue, they defend themselves, they shut down. But if you wrap that same truth in humor, something changes. People laugh first, and only later realize what they were actually laughing at. And by then, it's already too late. The idea has slipped in. That's the real power of satire. It doesn't attack you directly, it moves around your guard. It exaggerates reality just enough to make it look absurd, and in doing so, it exposes how absurd reality already is. That's why South Park feels different from most shows. It doesn't just tell stories, it mirrors behavior. It takes patterns that already exist and pushes them slightly further. Just enough for you to notice them, but not enough for you to reject them. And then there's something even more important: the speed. Unlike most animated series that take months or years to produce, South Park can create episodes in just a few days. That means it doesn't just comment on culture, it reacts to it in real time. What you're watching isn't a polished version of reality. It's raw behavior, captured before people have time to filter it, justify it, or pretend it's something else. It's not analysis, it's exposure. If you go back and watch older episodes, something uncomfortable starts to happen. Long before social media took over, long before outrage culture became normal, the show was already exploring these patterns. At the time, it felt exaggerated, unrealistic, even stupid. But now, it feels familiar. Not because the show predicted the future, but because it recognized the direction things were already moving in. Look at how people react today. A story breaks, emotions spike, and within minutes, opinions are everywhere. No context, no patience, no verification, just reaction. People don't think first anymore, they react first. And once that reaction is out, it spreads fast. Facts come later, if they come at all. What matters is the emotional impact in the moment. It feels like something new, something created by the internet, but it's not. It's just human behavior amplified. South Park didn't invent this, it just exaggerated it early enough for it to look ridiculous. Now it doesn't look ridiculous anymore, it looks normal, and that's where it gets disturbing. Because outrage doesn't last, it rotates. Today's controversy disappears the moment tomorrow's begins. The emotions feel real every time, but nothing actually changes. It's the same cycle, repeating over and over again. Reaction, escalation, replacement. And people don't even notice it happening. South Park highlights this by showing how quickly attention shifts and how little is ever resolved underneath all the noise. The same thing happened with identity and attention. Before platforms like Instagram or TikTok defined how people present themselves, the show was already portraying characters obsessed with validation, chasing attention in ways that felt exaggerated at the time. But now, that behavior is everywhere. People don't just live experiences, they curate them. They shape how they're seen. They measure their worth through reactions. What once looked like satire now looks like routine. And underneath that is something even deeper, a feedback loop. People don't just express themselves anymore, they adjust themselves. A post performs well, so they repeat it. An opinion gets approval, so they lean into it. Over time, expression becomes optimization, identity becomes performance, and eventually, it becomes hard to tell the difference between what someone genuinely believes and what simply gets the best reaction. Step back far enough, and it becomes strange again. Not because it changed, but because you're no longer inside it. You're observing it. And that's what South Park has always done. It pulls you out just enough to see patterns you're normally too close to notice. The same pattern shows up in public reactions and division. People don't respond logically, they respond emotionally. Narratives form instantly, sides are chosen immediately, and perception becomes more important than reality. What's interesting is that South Park doesn't tell you who's right. It shows how everyone can be wrong at the same time. And that's uncomfortable, because it removes the idea that there's a safe side to stand on. There's also something quieter happening underneath all of this: the influence of systems. People believe they're making independent decisions, but most of those decisions are shaped by things they don't even notice. Trends, social pressure, algorithms. These systems don't control people directly, they shape the environment around them. And over time, those environments start producing the same behaviors again and again. It looks like individuality, but it functions like a pattern. That becomes even more powerful with algorithms. Platforms don't just show content, they study you. They learn what keeps you engaged, refine it, and feed you more of the same. And the longer you stay in that loop, the narrower your perspective becomes. You're not being forced into decisions, you're being guided into them, quietly, gradually. And when millions of people are being guided in similar ways, their behavior starts to align. It feels natural, but it's structured. That's why trends spread so fast, why opinions start to sound the same, why people who believe they're thinking independently often end up thinking exactly like everyone else. What feels like self-expression is often just participation, and South Park exposes this by exaggerating it just enough to make it visible. Political division follows the same pattern. It's no longer about understanding, it's about winning. Once identity becomes tied to belief, changing your mind doesn't feel like growth anymore. It feels like loss. Conversations stop being conversations. They become battles. And in that environment, the most extreme voices rise to the top. Not because they're right, but because they're loud. Technology accelerates all of it. Phones, notifications, endless scrolling, constant stimulation designed to keep attention locked in. The dependency doesn't feel forced, it feels normal, automatic. People check their phones without thinking, react without reflecting, scroll without stopping. And what once looked like exaggeration now looks like everyday behavior. And maybe the most dangerous part of all of this is how absurdity becomes normal. Not all at once, but slowly, gradually. What would have seemed extreme years ago now barely stands out. And because that change happens step by step, people don't notice it until they look back. That's when it hits. Nothing feels unusual anymore, even when it should. And when everything feels normal, nothing gets questioned. That's when systems become most effective. Not when they're hidden, but when they're accepted. The characters in South Park reflect this perfectly. The kids react without fully understanding, quick to adapt, quick to repeat. The adults believe they understand, but constantly contradict themselves. Everyone participates in the system, but no one fully sees it. And that leads to an uncomfortable realization. The show was never just exposing them, it was exposing you, your reactions, your habits, your patterns. Because when people laugh at it, they think they're laughing at something distant, something exaggerated, something fictional. But they're not. They're laughing at something familiar, something they're part of. South Park didn't predict the future. It didn't need to. It simply understood how people work, the way they react, the way they follow patterns, and the way small behaviors repeated over time quietly shape everything around them. And now those patterns aren't hidden anymore. They're everywhere. The only difference is they don't look like jokes anymore. They look like reality. And once you see that, you can't unsee it.